right, so after posting the video about the best high income skills to make millions, two things came to my attention. First, people get really triggered when you tell them that they're wasting their time learning useless skills. Second, a lot of people want to know how to get clients without case studies. So I want to be one of the few YouTubers out there that actually give you insider tips on what's working in the market right now so that my followers will become rich. And then tell everyone about me so that I can achieve absolute power. All joking aside, I've watched other videos on this subject and most of them are honestly really bad because very few gurus will teach small business owners how they can actually get their first clients without case studies, because gurus are more concerned with selling people something rather than teaching them how they can get clients themselves.
Sell me this pen.
But you know what? That's none of my business. But if you pay attention in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can get clients without having any case studies or any social proof, including one unconventional strategy that landed me an $18,000 client in 1 week. And by the end of this video, you're gonna have a foolproof system for attracting high-paying clients, even if you're just starting out. And once you get this up and running, it's only going to be a matter of time before you're absolutely crushing it. And these exact strategies have helped over 100 of my students land their first clients within 30 days. So let's go ahead and start here. How do you get clients from YouTube without case studies? And make sure to like this video if you want to make so much money from YouTube that you can finally afford to pay for YouTube Premium so you don't have to watch ads. So let's go ahead and jump into the computer. And basically, I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this, because the first thing that you absolutely need to do, and this is probably the most important thing of all, and you should really focus on this and spend a lot of time doing this, is build in public. And specifically, share your story. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, of course, I'm going to share my story. Of course I'd do that, Shane. That's stupid. Like, of course, you know, like everybody knows that. Everybody knows you have to share your story. I want you to absolutely cram your story down your viewer's throat, okay? Like, I want you to share your story until you're so freaking tired of sharing your story that you never want to talk about it again. And let me give you a few examples of this. So I'm actually gonna show Instagram just because it's easier to sort of just demonstrate on Instagram. These guys are also on like pretty much all social media platforms, but Bass, he's a good friend of mine, and he has gotten to the point in, you know, all of his businesses where he's making $1 million a month. But he basically went from supermarket job to multi-millionaire at 25, okay? So this is his story. He was working in a supermarket job and he became a multi-millionaire at 25. And the way he did it was first getting an appointment setting job, and he talks a lot about that. And then later on, he started a business where he trained and placed appointment setters. And then he started another business where there are people that needed appointment setters, and so he was kind of making money on both sides, okay? So this is an example of sharing your story. And if you look at his content, you're gonna see that he shares his story in almost every piece of content. He relates it back to his story almost all the time, right? You know, even though I'm worth 13 million at 25 years old, blah, 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 bought this new $800,000 square house, and he somehow relates it back to when he was working in the supermarket, or when he first got his job as an appointment setter, or when he first started training people. He always relates it back to his story, almost every single piece of content. So you absolutely need to share your story. You need to cram it down people's throats. Let me give you another example. Paul Alex. I'm in a mastermind with Paul. He's a really cool guy as well. And he shares his story of being a detective, being a police officer, and becoming a serial entrepreneur. So he shares his story all the time of, you know, when he was a detective, and, you know, he talks about his personal life, you know, getting married, blah, 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 blah. And just all the freaking time, he relates it back to when he was a detective. And the reason this works so well, guys, is because when you share your own personal story, that is the one type of marketing that literally nobody can ever copy. Nobody can copy your story. So it's evergreen marketing. There's a lot of marketing tactics that will work for a few months, maybe even a few years, but then they stop working, right? This is not what's sustainable. It's not what you want to do. But this marketing tactic where he talks about how he lived in California for 35 years and he was a detective in California, and then he was able to escape the rat race by first basically starting a bunch of different ATMs. So he started a bunch of different ATMs. He was making a couple hundred a month from each ATM, and then eventually he made enough from his ATMs that he could quit his job, and then he started teaching other people how to do ATMs as well, right? So that's basically his story in a nutshell, and almost every piece of content that he does tells this story over and over again, okay? And it's just super, super powerful because so many people relate to him being a cop. Maybe they were cops themselves. Maybe they were detectives. Maybe they were just not cops or detectives, but they were emergency responders. So they worked as firefighters or paramedics or something like that. But they relate to his story. Maybe they relate to the fact that he lives in California. They relate to him on a deep level. He's like a California guy, right? And he lived in Northern California. So he's a Northern California guy because California is basically like 2 or 3 different states in one. Et cetera, et cetera. Just sharing these things about yourself makes you so much more relatable. And people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I wanted to be a cop one time, or I was a firefighter, or I was, a detective, or I wanted to be a detective, and I also didn't like my job. And they're just going to relate to you, and then they're going to be able to picture themselves doing the thing that you did. And that's the most powerful thing, is when they see someone who is in a similar position to them, and then they were able to get out of the bad position that they were in. They were able to solve that problem and get to a point where they're much happier and in a much better place. When they see that, they think that it's possible for them to do it as well. And it inspires them and it motivates them and it actually helps them to do the thing. And so when you share your story, I can't tell you how important this is. It's incredibly powerful that you're able to share your story and you share these little details about how you were in a position where you weren't happy. You were either bagging groceries or stocking shelves at a grocery store, and you were able to escape that. Or maybe you were working 80 hours a week as a detective and you were able to escape that. People are going to relate to that and they're going to be like, if he did it, I can do it too. And I'm going to hire this guy. This guy's going to be my mentor. Okay? I cannot emphasize how freaking important this is. And that's why, this is something I've forgotten as well. I need to talk more about how I used to be a pharmacist and, I used to work in medical and, I really didn't like the fact that the medical field is the way that it is. They focus mostly on making money and they focus mostly on basically medical disease management instead of actually curing the problem or curing the underlying problem that is causing the symptoms that you think is the problem. And they focus on just, giving people pills and, keeping them in a position where they just need to keep coming back over and over again to use the medical system and just spending more money. And of course, in the United States, a lot of the time that's going to be, $500,000 or $1 million over your lifetime. And so I was not happy with that. I wasn't happy with the medical system, and I was able to escape it by starting on YouTube, by content creation on YouTube. That's how I was able to escape it. And now I teach other people how they can also create content on YouTube, right? So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And that's a story that I need to be telling all the time. I need to be cramming this story down everyone's throat because it's incredibly powerful and it really helps people. It really helps them to transform their lives as well. And a lot of my clients do come from medical backgrounds or backgrounds where it's very similar to the situation I was in. Where they, were working for the government or they were in a medical background or something along those lines. And my story really inspires them to be able to do the same thing that I did, which is escape that and be able to travel the world and achieve financial freedom. Okay? So build in public and share your story, guys. Super, super powerful. So one thing I also want to say about this is you might be thinking, well, I don't have a cool story like that. I've never started a YouTube channel. I've never been a pharmacist or a detective or something like that, right? I've never done something worth talking about. Well, or maybe you think you're not an expert, right? Well, the truth is there's a scale from 1 to 10. Let's say this is a 1, this is a 3, this is a 5, this is a 7, and that's a 10. And 1 is absolute beginner and 10 is world-class expert. If you're a 3, you can teach a 1 how to get to a 3. And if you're a 5, you can teach a 3 how to get to a 5. And if you're a 7, you can teach a 5 how to get to a 7. And if you're a 10, you can teach a 7 how to get to a 10. And if you're a 10, you can also technically teach a 1 how to get to a 10. But the truth is, a lot of the time, it's actually better for the 1 to hire a 3 or a 5 to figure out how to get better, right? Because the 10 is so good at what they do that when the 1 asks them questions, they just haven't been on that person's level for like probably 20 years or something. And so they're going to have a lot of trouble answering the questions from a 1, right? So you don't need to be a world-renowned 10 out of 10 expert to help people, right? All you need to do is be a little bit better than a beginner, just a few steps ahead of a beginner, and you can help people to get to your level, right? So share your story, build in public, and no matter whether you're an expert, an intermediate, just a little bit better than a beginner, you can definitely help people achieve their goals. All right. So that is number 1. Go ahead and erase this. And number 2 is you want to give a ridiculous amount of value on YouTube for free. So this is with your free videos, of course, on YouTube, but also, so this is vids, your videos should be super valuable, and you should be, don't be afraid to give away all the best stuff. Like generally speaking, giving away the best stuff is really good, with the one exception of don't be the tutorial guy, because tutorials are boring and nobody buys from tutorials. So don't be the tutorial guy, but don't be afraid to give away, like generally speaking, your overall strategy for what you're doing. I mean, I give away a ridiculous amount of value on this channel. So you can do videos, of course, give lots of value in videos. Also lead magnets. Okay, lead magnets, that's another way you can give lots of value. Free groups, give free groups where you make content and maybe you do some live streams or something like that. Just give away a ridiculous amount of free value on YouTube. You can also do free consultations, which is essentially, another word for this is a service-based lead magnet. Service-based lead magnet. And the reason it's service-based is because it takes your time, right? So a service-based lead magnet. It's going to take your time, but that's a way you can get clients, okay? So give away an insane amount of value on YouTube. If you're an expert, you can just talk off the top of your head about this stuff. If you're not an expert, what you want to do is, instead of scripting things out and taking all this time to script and edit things, what you want to do is just literally share your journey of becoming an expert. And that's going to make it to where your content is sustainable. Because if you're trying to script things out a ton, like literally write everything out word for word, it is going to be incredibly difficult. So I'm just going to write don't script. It's going to be incredibly difficult to write because it's going to take a lot of time to write, difficult to record. You're going to hate recording. And if you've never done YouTube before, you might not understand this, but if you've done YouTube, you know how difficult it is to record things word for word. And then it's difficult to edit. Difficult and time-consuming to edit. Okay? Difficult and time-consuming to edit. Okay? So do not script things out word for word. If you're an expert, just talk off the top of your head, just like I'm doing right now. And if you're not an expert, just share what you're learning. Share the journey of you learning to become an expert. Like as you learn things, as you have certain epiphanies, just share the journey, right? It's just that simple. All right, number 3, use others as case studies. So you can actually make case studies on people who are not your clients, right? So an example is you can break down how Alex Hormozi grew, right? So, or you can break down, let's say you do funnels for a living. You create funnels for people. You can break down people's funnels. Okay? You can do case studies. Break down people's funnels and make a case study, put it on YouTube, and people are going to, get a lot of value from that. You don't necessarily have to use your own stuff as case studies. For instance, some of the best people in my industry, and these are people that I talk about quite a bit, are Charlie Morgan. He basically does exactly what I preach, Charlie Morgan, Serge Guattari, right? And these are guys that I talk about quite a bit on my channel because they basically do exactly what I tell you to do. One reason I talk about them is because I actually respect both of them. But a lot of people in the industry will tell you to do one thing, and then what they'll actually be doing is a completely different thing. And I think that's kind of lame. And I like to bring a lot of transparency to that and tell you like what people are actually doing, because what people are actually doing right now is making content. Like if you look at Alex Hormozy, he's making content. He went all in on making content. You look at those guys that I mentioned, Charlie, Serge, they're making content. Almost all the biggest creators, the people that are making the most money, Dave Ramsey, he makes like $100 million a year. He's making content. Tony Robbins, he's making a lot of content. He's even on Netflix, right? You've got Grant Cardone. He makes a ton of content. Yeah, so Grant Cardone makes a ton of content, right? So all these different people, they're making content. That is why they're making so much money. That is their big secret, is they're making content. And I'm just the person who's here and telling you, like, this is what's actually going on, you know? So you can use other people as your case studies. That's totally fine. You can basically dissect the success of others, and that's going to be really good content a lot of the time. Okay? Number 4, service. I kind of touched on this already, but service-based lead magnets, or basically lead magnets that require a lot of effort. Okay? Service-based lead magnets, or lead magnets that require a lot of effort. So this is something where you, a classic example of this is in SEO. They do website audits. And of course, SEO is an industry that's been around for a long time. And this works incredibly well in SEO, doing free website audits. Of course, you want the person to request the website audit first, but you do these free website audits, you tell them what they need to improve on, and then you give them kind of like a plan on exactly what you would do to improve on those things. And, you know, that's how you get introduced to them, that's how you get them on the phone, and that's eventually how you would, you know, help to hopefully close them. And these service-based lead magnets work incredibly well because the people know that you are not automating it, right? You're not automating. Now, when you send them automated lead magnets, things that you just do automatically, the person is much, much less likely to respond. Okay, it's just very simple. They're way less likely to respond. But when you do a service-based or high-effort lead magnet, something that requires you to get on a call with them, something that requires you to, you know, do some kind of audit for them, something along those lines, they're much more likely to respond, and they are much more likely to get on the phone with you, and they're going to have a lot of goodwill towards you, and there's a very good chance that you're going to be able to land them as a client. Okay? And then number 5, do free work. I know it sucks, guys, but do free work, or in some cases, you know, you could do free or you could do really cheap, right? Like get a discount. Now, you can do free work if you know the person or you have some kind of connection with them. So like family, maybe a family friend, you got introduced through a business partner, something like that, right? You can do some free work, and I've done that before. Or if you don't really have much of a connection to them, you probably want to do some cheap work. And the reason for this is because they're going to be more bought in. They need to buy in, because you could give them the best possible advice, but if they're not bought in, they're not going to do the work and they're not going to get the results. And that's one problem with doing free work, is a lot of the time they don't have any skin in the game, and so they're probably not going to get results when you do free work for them. But yeah, this is a great way to obviously get some initial testimonials. You can also, of course, reach out through your network. Now, you can reach out through your network and, you know, family, friends, etc. Local, you can put up some, you know, some stuff, go to the local commerce meetup or whatever, and just, you know, just try to do some free work for people and try to get some good feedback. Now, there's 2 different types of testimonials. One is quantitative testimonial, and the second is qualitative testimonial. So if you did some work for somebody and they basically had a really good experience, but they didn't necessarily get really good results. Like let's say you help them start creating YouTube videos, for instance, or, you know, let's say your offer is you help them set up their ads, but they're not necessarily making money from that. They can give you a qualitative testimonial. And this is where they're just basically like, you know, Shane helped me set up my ads. Set up ads. And these are not as good not as good, but they're easier to get. They're easier to get, okay? So qualitative is the person's just happy with the work you did. And then quantitative is honestly much better. This is better, but it's harder to get because you have to actually get them results. You know, it's like much harder to get. Now, almost all of my testimonials are quantitative because I'm just like, I could get like hundreds of qualitative testimonials. I just don't find them to be that valuable. And so I like quantitative testimonials where I have an exact number that I help the person get to. And you, by the way, you can check out all my testimonials, or at least a lot of them. I actually have a lot more. But down in the description in the pinned comment below, you can check out how much I've helped people make. I've helped 4 people get to 8 figures, 17 people get to 7 figures, and a bunch of other people make like a full-time income. You can check those out down in the description in the pinned comment below. And you can also sign up for a call with me if you'd like to. So you can start off with some qualitative testimonials, just like, oh, I had a good experience with this person, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you know, Shane really knows what he's talking about. If you're thinking about working with him, you know, don't even hesitate, dive in right now, that kind of thing. And these are okay. You know, these are all right. They're not terrible. Most experienced business owners are going to look for quantitative testimonials. But there's a lot of people out there that aren't as experienced, or they just don't care as much, right? And so you can get qualitative testimonials right away. You could even work with them for just a few days and get some qualitative testimonials. But quantitative testimonials generally are better. But it's definitely something you can do. And in order to do that, in many cases, just go ahead and do some free work, right? Just go ahead, do some free work. And these are how you can get the testimonials. And that is how you can get more clients, because testimonials make a huge difference in an industry where there are so many people that don't know what they're doing and so many people trying to fake it before they make it. Testimonials make an absolutely massive difference. So definitely get them. Also, free resources in the description in the pinned comment below that will teach you how to grow and make money on YouTube. Definitely check those out, and I'll see you next time.